In no organization, it's sunshine every day. It's not going well every single day. Some days should be good. Many days should be good. However, we all know no matter what kind of services or product or solution you offer, no matter what you offer on the market, there will always be ups and downs, no matter what you offer. And of course, as soon as you have a down moment, as soon as you see that probably the crisis might be on the horizon, or you see that you're already in the crisis and now people ask for guidance, for a direction, and you have to say something. That is our topic for the week. How to address people in moments of crisis. And we're going to talk about a couple of real world examples, some of them shockingly bad. And I have to warn you, especially a couple of phrases we heard, especially one phrase is on a deeply shocking level. And it's a real world example about a recent event. Probably you heard that World Cup started. I'm not watching it. That will not surprise you. And we're going to talk about bad examples and then how to do it better. And one of the worst examples is the boss of the FIFA. It's Gianni Infantino. Gianni Infantino recently, after being criticized yet again for having World Cup in Qatar, said that the critics are hypocrites. There's hypocrisy because he said that Europe should apologize for the 3,000 years and what they've done to others. And no question, from a historical point of view, he's absolutely correct. Europe should. However, he's a bit late with that statement. He never addressed that before. He's clearly running not only out of arguments, let's face it, he never had arguments in his favor for this World Cup in Qatar. However, he's now running out of sound bites, one-liners, and whatever else the PR department wrote for him, because you cannot always repeat the same phrases, which he has now done for month and month in the past. For the first time, Gianni Infantino, as the boss of FIFA, as FIFA's boss, addresses history. However, he does not address what the problems in Qatar are, and it gets worse from there. And I warn you again, when you're easily distressed, the next phrase might shock you, because Gianni Infantino said, and I quote, and I think he wanted to make a point about what he thinks he can feel about World Cup. So he said, and I quote, "Today I feel gay, I feel disabled, I feel a migrant worker." Honestly, I am hardly ever lost for words, but that is a moment where I have no idea how Gianni Infantino could think that these words are remotely acceptable. Just to give you a bit of background, Infantino was born in Brig, that's in Switzerland. He went to a very good university. He's a lawyer, fully qualified legal person. He speaks different languages: Italian, Spanish, French, German, English, Portuguese, Arabic languages. So, hey, we all know this migrant worker that has an excellent law degree and speaks 7 languages, don't we? Oh, wait, we don't. And that's not even the whole story. In Infantino's list of offenses or alleged offenses, or what he has done in the past, is pretty long. And it started already during his probation period in 2016. First, the FIFA was involved in the Panama Papers and what was leaked there. They first denied the allegations, then suddenly they were there again. And suddenly they were involved, and then the ethics committee had to show up. And when you see only the blindingly obvious offenses that Infantino was accused of, spending more than 8,000 British pound on mattresses, more than £6,500 on a stepper he bought for his personal exercise, and more than £1,000 on smoking, more than £600 on flowers, more than £130 on laundry. He invoiced FIFA for drivers for his family plus consultancy. It is beyond belief how this man can still be in power and not apologize for anything he has done so far, but pointing to his opponents, saying that history should teach us that Europe should apologize. And yes, of course, Europe should apologize and pay compensations. However, we see here that he's running out of any reasonable point he can make. He's now pointing at anyone else and hopes that throwing mud at them, something will stick with someone, or at least he hopes so. He is as desperate as a person can be. A catastrophic example of a leader. And of course, you might now say, hey, no one who was in a very high level, in a C-level position, CEO position, would ever say anything that they regret something. And you're wrong with that. I can give you an example. Elizabeth Holmes, just this week, she was the former CEO of Theranos. Theranos was a company that was valued in the high billions of dollars. And they invented a machine called the Edison, where they claimed that with only a few drops of blood, they were able to diagnose certain diseases very quickly. And that, of course, went through the roof. Turned out that it was not true. It was a case of fraud. And she defrauded many people, especially investors, of their money. And now she had to go to court. 11 years in jail is the result of a 3-year trial. And at the end, she said she to anyone about what she has done. She regrets it with every cell of her body. And she made an incredible statement. But let's face it, of course, it's too late. But after it's too late, at least you can apologize. We haven't heard any of these words from any FIFA official. I mean, we heard it from Sepp Blatter after he's now retired, sitting somewhere at home and now making the situation even more difficult. He was the one who brought Qatar in. Now saying it was a mistake is a bit too late. So we haven't heard anything from Infantino, which is even close to that. And of course, now before people ask about it, yes, Elon Musk did things this week again. He now unblocked quite a number of profiles, including Donald Trump. He did a mini referendum online on Twitter, where people could vote if Trump should be back, yes or no. And when the vote ended with yes, he tweeted, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, meaning the voice of the people is the voice of God. And I think he's really of the opinion that he did something democratic here. But when you do referendums, and this is not a referendum, but the people who are allowed to do the referendum are not elected. Elon Musk is not an elected official. What Elon Musk does is called ochlocracy. Ochlocracy means that you have an acclamation or some sort of vote where the majority always wins. And Donald Trump normally had a go at minorities and women. Surprisingly, the majority, who are not minorities and women, didn't care about that. So they said, welcome back, Donald Trump. And by the way, the vote ended 52-48 in favor of Donald Trump. Well, maybe a referendum and following it, especially when it's highly controversial and dangerous. When this ends 52-48, maybe you should reconsider your approach of just doing it, because maybe we had referendums in the past, or any referendum anywhere, which ended that way and didn't go too well. #Brexit. So we see there are many, and again, no, not a single apology. Again, we see that leaders do a horrible job, but they still are there and keep on harming the organization. Now we have to see, how can we do it better? So step number one. So when you start, the first step always is you clearly cut out what is it you're going to talk about. What is the issue, the situation, the problem you're talking about? Why do you do that? You do that so anyone knows exactly what you're talking about and also what you will not talk about. So when you say, hey, we have 7 different items in this company that need sort of work, today I'm going to address A, B, C, D, which is 4 out of 7. So people know we are not going to talk about the other 3. You make that very clear. So you start with clearly addressing what is the problematic situation, the issue, the topic you're going to talk about, followed by deriving how you got into these circumstances. Tell them what happened, tell them the circumstances, and then in the next step, you have to be a bit more detailed. You have to say, and you have to address who are the people participating in this, how did it go, what were the processes, what happened in the past, were there any exceptions or people who didn't agree or tasks that were not done? Is there anything you did also to compensate victims if there are any? What have you done so far? That is the big part here. Followed by, and now you have to be specific, very specific steps about what you do and when. Don't say, and I give you a couple of examples, a software will be written, or we are looking into an optimization process, or you say, in the future, we should address X, Y, Z. That is not specific enough. So you have to say, that's what we do, and that is the day when it will be completed. Of course, you should then add what is the other and the next and the upcoming communication process, because people want to see if you're willing to cooperate or if you just show up, give a speech, and then disappear because you're not actually interested in giving any kind of open communication to the world. And of course, when you've done something wrong, and that goes without saying, you have to apologize. And I mean apologize. It means you own the apology, you have the accountability, you apologize, and you say that something went wrong. And this does not sound like what some people say. They say, and this is something you hopefully will never do. Some people say, I'm sorry if you took offense. No, it's not me. It's not me who took offense. It's you committing the offense. So don't point to others and give them sort of a pseudo excuse where you say, well, it's actually your fault, but I say something to get away with it. This is not working. Also, it's very important when you now have these situations. Maybe someone is listening right now and say, hey, we have exactly that situation in my organization. The assumption of innocence applies to absolutely anyone. If you like them or not is not relevant. We are in a democracy, and the assumption of innocence always is where we start. Of course, when you then see that you have proof and evidence and the person did that, then you have to remove the person or give them any kind of other punishment, whatever that may be, letter of warning, demotion. There are quite a number of cutting bonuses. There are quite a number of steps you can implement. However, the final conclusion has to be given by a neutral, relevant, and qualified institution. When you, for example, say, oh, we have this ethics committee internally, and the internal ethics committee said that there is no ethics violation, people laugh all day long about how you can remotely think that anyone takes this seriously. When you and your mates hang out in the so-called ethics committee, you know each other for a long time, then you cannot expect anyone to believe that this gets to any kind of neutral or reliable or valid outcome. So you need an accredited and publicly accepted, relevant institution with qualified people to make the final verdict, to have the final say on the matter. And if you follow this process, then you will do a lot better than most of the people who are on the market out there at the moment. I see how this has been done in the wrong way for many, many times. So it is time for you to do it better. And of course, I published on this. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, just put your email address in there, and you get an email every Wednesday morning, free access to everything I published in that week. And of course, needless to add that when you now say, hey, I have a problem here, I have a situation, can we just confidentially talk? Yes, of course we can. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Of course, when you now say, hey, I have something very specific, we need someone for training, seminar, workshop, speaking, coaching, consultancy, mentoring, or hey, we need a project interim management for that situation, or we have an event, can you speak there, or can you host it? Yes, of course I can. But we also can just have a chat and talk about what you like to talk about. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. And now we come to the final 3 steps you need to do at the end of this podcast. So step number 1, because of course, when you want to have resources and you want to have them available at no charge, register your email, go to expert.nb-networks.com, and you have free access to all of that. Second, contact me via my email address, nb@nb-networks.com, because that is how we can get in touch. That is how we can talk about exactly your situation, and it's free of charge. So just go for it. And third, apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive change that you actually want to have and want to see in your organization. I'm always happy to help you on the way. Let me know if there's any need, and let's have a chat. And now there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.